Welcome, everybody. It's good to have you on our call. Some familiar faces and some new faces. And we're all a little bit early, so we're going to let people settle in. While they're coming in, I'm Lynn Christian from Soul Salt, the founder of the company. We're a coaching company, and our purpose is to support people who want to be their own version of an inspired badass. And today the topic is how do you do that and reinvent yourself, especially in a time where the economy, it might be a little fuzzy, the future, and especially at a time where, and if you've listened to my Instagram day, where you might need to have a paycheck and you're not quite sure that you can let go of what you used to do in order to have a new paycheck come into the picture. So that's sort of where we are headed today. On the screen, you're going to see Shannon from Soul Salt. Shannon runs all things customer service and legal. She runs our operations here at Soul Salt, has done for several years. She followed me from Franklin Covey Coaching. So we're very grateful she's with us still. And we have our guest speaker today, Melissa Stamp, who is a very talented, very gifted, very accomplished water scientist. And what do you do? Like, this is where we're going to go deep. What do you do when you are so specialized and you know your day in and day out, you understand what you're doing, you're good at it, you have accolades for it, and you have people who respect you, and you recognize it's not working for you anymore? What the heck do you do? And so Melissa's going to talk to us about that. If you've listened to me very much, you know that reinvention can be a multi-month, multi-year proposition, and you can earn while you're learning. That's a mantra that we have here at Soul Salt, so that you don't have to go without that vital paycheck. We also engage a specific set of strategies that you can work through, and we offer those on our online course. It's a 6-month course. If you're interested in taking that, you're welcome to do that. Mostly we're here today to support you for free, a webinar where anybody can join, anybody can ask questions, everybody can learn, because this is such a huge step that you're taking, no matter where you are in your reinvention process. So I'm going to just ask before I introduce Melissa fully and let her step on the stage. Anybody want to go to chat, please feel free and tell us what compelled you to come in today. Hello, Christiana. It's good to see you. Lisa, Jen, good to see you. Asia's coming in, yeah. And just go to chat. And while you're doing that, know that you're not alone. Shannon D, tell us how many people are regularly signed up to either watch this video live, this webinar live, or they get it sent to them. How many people?
We're right at 700, maybe a little bit more, last I checked.
Yeah, it's a big darn deal, this topic is. So you are not alone. So yes, if you want to go to chat, tell us how come you're joining today. How come you wanted to hear Melissa's story, which is a real life, no nonsense story. And while you're putting that in the chat, Melissa and I had never met each other. How long did we work together, Melissa, before we actually ran into each other?
That's true. Do you mean just when we saw each other a few months ago? Yeah, that's been almost 2 years.
2 years. So we knew each other, we'd worked with each other, and then I'm going in and she's coming out of a local grocery store chain in my neighborhood. And it's in your neighborhood too, isn't it, Melissa? I mean, we don't live that far apart from each other. We could have bumped into each other at a coffee shop or anywhere, but it was at the grocery store. And Melissa was telling me her story, how she's made the leaps and bounds that she has, and how much time it took. She was so honest, and so I asked her to be on here. So Melissa Stamp, from water scientist, brine shrimp wrap writer, failed job applicant writer, to successful reinventor. So Melissa, front and center, go ahead, tell us, give us your story, share with us what you can share today.
All right. Thanks so much, Lynn. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, excellent. Well, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to join you guys, and hopefully you'll find my story interesting and helpful. And I think what I'm going to do is just spend probably about 10 minutes going through my background, through the different phases of my reinvention, fairly high level. And I do have like a few main points I want to touch on about the different phases, but I think I'll go through my overview and share a couple of slides that are illustrative of the different phases in my reinvention journey. And then just open it up to questions from you all, and I'll touch on kind of some of the key points during that Q&A process to just keep it a little bit more engaged. So yeah, my background, Lynn kind of set it up a little bit. My background is in watershed science. I have a master's degree in watershed science from Utah State University. And prior to doing grad school at Utah State, I grew up East Coast, and was always interested in the environmental field ever since college. Had a few different jobs coming out of college, exploring some different realms of the environmental and water resources field, and then wound up moving out to Utah in the late 90s. It's been more than 25 years now somehow, and I've stayed in Utah that whole time, and did my graduate degree. And right coming out of grad school, I got a job with a local environmental consulting firm up in Logan, Utah, doing water resources work, and did that for about 12 years. I stuck that out for a long time. I enjoyed the work. It was very diverse and interesting. But I did get to a point of just anyone who's done consulting work, you know, it can get to be burnout, a couple of like staying up till midnight, submitting proposals, not getting contract awards, that kind of thing. And some of those frustrations, and the economy was a little off for that work in right around 2013 is when I quit that job. And I kind of did a little mini jump of my career at that point and spent a couple of years doing environmental education work at Red Butte Garden, a local botanical garden. I've always been interested in teaching, and while I was still doing my consulting work at the time, I was noticing I was coaching ultimate frisbee, which I played for many years, and doing some volunteer teaching, and just noticing how much I was enjoying that. So that was part of my decision making to divert to doing that environmental education work for a couple of years. And then the grant funding ran out on that job, and I was job searching again, wound up taking a job with a small federal agency that I had actually done a fair number of projects for as a consultant. So I started that job in November of 2015. And that was kind of the job that I stayed in for 8 years and had a really hard time leaving, and finally managed to get out of it just about a year ago now. We're just shy of a year. And so that's kind of my pre-story to the job that I was feeling incredibly stuck in for a long time. And I guess I'll just maybe mention, so phase one was, I've been in that job for only about a year and a half, and I kind of was starting to feel like something wasn't, my gut was telling me it wasn't all great. Like I felt like some of my strengths, which I was good at, like detail oriented, getting things done in a timely manner and on budget, which is sort of the currency of consulting work, which is project driven. None of that seemed to be of much value in my new job with the federal government. And I kind of just didn't feel like I didn't have clear expectations. I had a supervisor that wasn't exactly that we didn't get along, but I called it free range management. He wasn't very active in supervision or setting expectations, never did employee evaluations, kind of felt like that was inefficient and not a good use of time. So I was struggling a little bit with kind of the culture at that job. I almost applied for a job early on, but stuck it out. I was doing work that I believed in the mission of the agency. It was interesting work. But I also was noticing that I just didn't have a lot of energy anymore at the end of the day. I quit coaching on the side. I quit some board memberships that I had because I was like, I can't do more emails in my life. I was just kind of very administrative job. So there were some signs that maybe wasn't the perfect fit for me. I was getting close, I think, to applying for some other jobs in early 2020, and then the pandemic hit, and I kind of went, whoa, okay, I've got a delightfully stable, secure, well-paying job with the federal government. I've got a good paycheck coming in. We're going to just hold on to that stability for now. And so I think that delayed my interest in doing something different for a while. Then late in 2021, I applied for a deputy executive director position at my agency. My boss was about to retire and wanted to bring on someone to replace him. I wound up not getting that offer, which definitely did not feel good. I also was at a point where I didn't even really want it, but I wanted to be able to say, nope, I'm not taking it. All of these were kind of signs that this wasn't, I was kind of in a negative headspace. Let's put it that way. So there was some anger in me about that whole thing. And so after that, I was applying for jobs late in 2021 into early 22. I think I had 4 different interviews, and I wound up not getting any offers on those jobs, and ended up accepting an internal promotion to a more supervisory position in my agency under the new executive director. I kind of hoped, well, I was like, I didn't get any of these other jobs. Maybe this will be better. It's a slightly different set of responsibilities, new boss. And the new boss was better, but many other things were not better. So I remember a friend of mine who's on the call can let me know. I think she's on, but you can let me know if you are okay with me using your name.
Go for it.
Go for it. Okay. Yeah. I talked to Jamie Butler, who I've known for a long time and also has worked with Lynn and Reinvented. And I think it was May of 2022, we saw each other at the Great Salt Lake Issues Forum. And you mentioned you had just quit your longtime job. We're working with Lynn. And I was like, oh, that's good to know. Okay. But that was like in May of 2022, and not until January, I think, of 2023 did I get in touch with Soul Salt and set myself up for a 6 months of coaching with Lynn. And that was definitely a game changer. And I think my New Year's resolution for 2023 was, by the end of this year, I'm not going to be in the same job anymore. So I was getting more serious about it at that point. That was kind of phase 2 was most of 2023 as I started working with Lynn in, I think, almost late February. Jamie, we worked together on the Sandy brine shrimp wrap, which is, I'll show you an image of that if anyone would like to check that out. It's on Instagram at Sandy brine shrimp. But that was kind of just one of many things I worked on with Lynn. But it was a little bit of a window to maybe a more lighthearted space, kind of reconnecting with some passion and creativity that I had been missing for 8 years in this job. I also reconnected with a woman I had known right when I had gotten out of graduate school at a conference that spring, who is now one of my supervisors in my new job. But that was before I was really even applying for anything. So anyway, then by late 2023, I had done, I don't know, a few different job applications, maybe about 3, and then put in an application for this job with the Nature Conservancy that was really of interest. I was a really good fit for it. I still wasn't sure it was going to be perfect in terms of still going to be a lot of administrative and managerial kind of aspects, but I had 2 rounds of interviews on that job and thought I was going to get an offer. It was feeling more real than any of the other jobs that I had applied for. And I think I was also starting to actually visualize being in this new job. I remember I called you at one point, Lynn, when I was in the middle of that job process. You're like, I have a good feeling about this. And I wound up not getting the offer on that either, but I think I was in the top 2 or 3. And the hiring manager was fairly apologetic when he told me he couldn't hire me. They were definitely interested. But kind of through that, I was kind of like, you know what? That had sort of a late February of 2024 timeline for starting that new job. And I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna leave anyway. And so that was kind of, I think, being able to actually visualize that new job sort of gave me the courage to just jump off the cliff into the unknown. And I had kind of checked on my financial situation and was fortunate enough to have health insurance through my husband, and said, you know what? Let me take a 6 months self-proclaimed sabbatical. And so I kind of jumped off that cliff at that time. It also coincided with a trip to Argentina. My husband had to go for work. Jamie was actually on that trip as well. And so that kind of gave me a date too, that I was excited. And so I went on that trip and I never went back to my job, and I finally escaped. And then in the meantime, actually, before I had left on that trip, I had reached out to this woman, this engineering professor at Utah State University, where I now work, because through some of the experiments I had been doing with Lynn and other things, I was just kind of looking for where's there work happening that I'm super interested in. And it was very much a networking thing. And I said, hey, do you need help with this? Here's all the reasons I would be a good person to help you with this. And much to my surprise, she said yes. She said, yes, we could use your help, and started going back and forth. And I started work for Utah State in a part-time capacity late last April. So my 6 month sabbatical was really only 2 months, but the part-time aspect of the job allowed me to do a lot of other fun things as well for a lot of last year. And at this point, I've added a second project I'm working on for the same group, and have full-time work on third projects on the horizon. So, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I'll maybe just stop there and share my silly little picture slides of the different phases of kind of how I felt at different times during this process. And I couldn't get the GIF version of this image to work, but if you Google it, merry-go-round kid dragging, that I literally showed this image to my boss when I quit my old job. And I said, here's I can't hang on anymore. I've got to leave. And that was how it had felt for a long time. And maybe some of you can relate to that, those of you who are realizing or thinking you need to do something different. So that was the early phase. And then this is a couple of screenshots from the brine shrimp video, wrap video, where I was starting to see some hope and light and reconnect with parts of myself I really enjoy. And then this is a picture of me on that trip to Argentina, once I had kind of gotten free of that job that was so challenging for me mentally.
Those pictures are great. So your evolution went from being dragged on the carpet, by the merry-go-round, to, and you made a big leap there when you finally went to, I'm going to do something I enjoy. And bring up the slide again, the previous slide with the brine shrimp. I'm curious, you're the person in blue. Jamie is running the puppet. And you guys did the wrap, and we're trying to find it so we can get it played here. Tell us what inspired you to make a jump into something you enjoyed, because there you were being drug across the carpet over and over to finding a little bit of joy, happiness, and strength.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've definitely contemplated a fair bit of why did I let myself get stuck for so long. And it took a lot to kind of let go of that. And it's a mix of, security and money, and ego. I think, honestly, to be perfectly honest, like ego and tied to cultural norms. I'm 54 years old. I'm at a point where, I've been fortunate to have a good education. I have a good background. I'm smart. I should have this important, responsible, supervisory job, etc. And all those things, all those boxes were checked with my previous job. But I also, honestly, it was my health to some extent, mental health more than anything. And, you know, it was preparing for today. I looked through some old journal entries and some different things. And I mean, I'd been reaching out to a employee assistance program counselor and doing some therapy and like a lot of different trainings through my work with things that I was good at that job. I was good at that job, but it was definitely draining me. And just realizing that that's what was happening, I knew I had to leave. So yeah, I don't know what really puts, you know, I think everybody has this. There's things you want, but it's easy to put them off and you're kind of stuck in your grind, your everyday grind. And finding that little bit of space you need to have the energy to do something and make a change. I personally, I start to just get really fed up with myself and annoyed with myself, and we'll start to do some of the things. And so I was at that point when we were able to connect over this. But I mean, it was a delightful surprise to do this wrap. It's something I did. You do a lot of you write cheers for the other team in Ultimate Frisbee, and I always used to love doing that. And so it was an outlet for me, mostly writing the lyrics. And I just happened, I thought, you know, let me share this with Jamie and a couple of other friends I had worked on Great Salt Lake issues with. And it turned out not to be the people I thought would maybe be interested and respond, but another friend of ours jumped right on it after I sent this audio recording of me doing it. She's like, I'm clearing my schedule. We're making this into a video. And off we went.
And there it is. It's going to be documented in history. An amazing, I mean, it is an amazing feat. And yeah, like that. In the words of Sonny Brown, it's great you put should on the shelf and took a leap. Really well said, Sharni. Thank you. One of our heroes here at Soul Salt is Sonny Brown. Yeah. And your last picture is beautiful with that smile and contentment. And okay, I know you have more to share. What else can you share with us? Those were great pictures.
Yeah, I think maybe just a reminder that, I mean, my path was very messy and it was multi-year. You know, there were kind of gaps where I wasn't trying to do anything, that I was trying to make things work where I was. And then I'd have these intense sessions of applying for jobs and it not working out. And I think, you know, I mean, certainly Lynn, working with you warned me it will get messy and you warn everyone. So, you know, that's the reality of it. And I think hopefully it's somewhat reassuring to those of you who are in that process that that's totally normal. And it doesn't mean it's not going to work. So I think that's important. I think one other thing, you know, also now being in this new position, just really looking at the map that I prepared with Lynn and Soul Salt, just recognizing, and it's easier to see now that some of my unique personal needs are being met in my work, to see how much those were missing. And I remember that being an aha moment for me during the coaching process of, oh, I need time and space to think and have sort of not being constantly in meetings or responding to emails. And oh, that's why I'm tired all the time. And it's just so freeing and amazing to have that in my life now. So I think that self-work, doing some of the assessments with Lynn early on in our coaching, that's just really helped me kind of have a feeler out for that as I've considered different jobs and different positions. And there have been some opportunities over the past year for me to take on a different, you know, apply for a different job, but just realizing, looking at my map and going, wow, I'm checking most of these boxes. My success criteria are getting met. I'm in a good place with meeting my personal needs. And going, oh, I'm going to stay here for now. And even one of the the second project I've started working on with Utah State involves one of the women. We're doing an experiment, Lynn, that she's like, reach out to, you know, read journal articles and see, you want to get back into science, see what's of interest. And I had reached out to one of the professors that was involved with a bunch of articles. And now she's one of the people I'm working with on this second project. So it's funny to kind of see how things all tie in together in hindsight. Even if like at the time I didn't get an email response from her, but now I get to work with her, just the way things have circled around. So, yeah, I think just those were very valuable to me in terms of the components of the coaching.
Thank you, thank you. And Shannon, would you put the book in the link? If you don't have the minimal thing you can do is get your map even before you start to reinvent. Shannon will put the book in a link in the chat. The brine shrimp link is there too, and we see if we can play it before we get Melissa off the screen here. Melissa, I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
How did you live with the money situation? How am I going to earn a living? How did you manage your mind around that during this extended period of time?
Just a kind of revisited some of our household budget situation and checked on kind of what savings we have. And we're fortunate to have a decent bit of savings that generate some investment income, and kind of just going, this shouldn't be driving my life, because my decision to jump out of this job at the age I'm at was not financially wise by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of reasons people stick it out in the federal government until retirement age. So it did take some of those check-ins, and I'm just in a fortunate position to be perfectly honest that I'm able to do that. But I was able to negotiate a good hourly rate. The work I'm doing right now is just hourly. It's not benefited, and being able to piggyback on my husband is also very fortunate. And I realize not everyone can certainly do that. So yeah, I don't have a great answer if that's not your situation, but that was part of the bravery of jumping off. Yeah.
Well, and I think even when you have a bit of that safety net, it's still scary.
It is.
Right?
It is. Yeah.
So 2 things you said that I want you to come back to and just add anything you want to. You said, and this is something all of us can use. All of us can use this. Where is there work happening that I'm super interested in? Yeah. And so what were some activities that kind of got a springboard off of that question?
Yeah. Kind of, some of it was in my previous job. I'm on the email list for lots of things that are happening, and this Great Salt Lake, it's called a basin integrated planning effort that the state has invested a lot of money in. That was about sort of a side thing, not tied directly to my previous job, but I kind of knew it was happening. And being in a space where I knew I was looking around, kind of paying attention to some of those peripheral things that might be part of your current job, and going, oh, you know what? I'm going to carve out half an hour and watch the recording of this meeting and find out more about what's going on there and who's involved, and see if those are people I know or can follow up with. So I think paying attention to some of those side items and carving out the time, because that wasn't something I needed to do for my job at the time, was part of how I kind of found that. And then I think also, in my case, I've always been a little bit waffly with policy versus science. Effectiveness is kind of a big value of mine. And so I think that's part of why I jumped out of consulting at one point, where I liked doing the science, but I wanted to make sure it was meaningful. And I think wanting to get back more to the science side, picking up, actually reading journal articles that I had a subscription to, but wasn't making the time to carve out time to review, because again, it wasn't important for that job I had at the time. That was a good exercise, just refreshing myself of what's going on in the field, who's doing what. And that's kind of how I made a tie to another Utah State University professor that I had known in grad school, that again, now I'm working with. So I think, I don't know if that helps, but I think paying attention to the peripheral things, and then just maybe re-engaging with, in my case, it was some folks that were network back in the past a little bit of places I've been before and reconnecting with some of those people from 20 years ago to see what they've been doing.
Those are great, great ideas. Thank you. You also said reconnect with parts of me that I loved. Besides doing the rap with Jamie, what other parts of you did you reconnect with?
Yeah, and one of the things that I didn't feel like I got, well, I got to use it some, but it definitely was not noted or appreciated very much in my previous job. Is just kind of attention to detail and quality on some level. And it's just a bit of a night and day with my new job where I am a little more engaged with the science. I get to spend time on spreadsheets and noticing. I just was on a call earlier today. I'm like, I think there was supposed to be 350 variables. I think you might have pulled the wrong file. And that's actually appreciated, that I'm noticing that there's something wrong and the science needs to be right. And we need to make sure the numbers are right. And that we're writing down the methods in a coherent way. And so I think that's been a bit of a sigh of relief for me too, to just feel like I can engage in that work and it is valued. And yeah, that's just a kind of a muscle I hadn't been able to stretch in the old job. Felt more treated as an annoyance when I noticed problems, even though, like, doesn't this matter? This legal document is wrong.
Yeah. So when you can't use your superpowers, you do feel like you're being dragged behind somebody else's bus, not being able to contribute. And that's a good sign that reinvention might be in your future. I'm going to give you an invitation, Melissa. Will you go look through the chat really quick? And there are a lot of people who were generous and gave us the reason why they came on today. And if you didn't get a chance to do that yet and you want to share with us why you're here, why you wanted to listen to Melissa, take some time and write it out. We'd love to hear. We'll let Melissa look at those for just a minute. And then I'll go over some basic steps. Reinvention does take time. So attending these webinars, please continue to do that. It's free. And that's one way that we want you to be able to keep on your path. Remembering you have a community to plug into each month. And by plugging into us, it keeps you looking forward to your focus. Because as Melissa just said, messy doesn't mean it's not going well. Messy just means that you're living in that space between what you're leaving behind and that thing in the future that you're hungry for, dreaming for, reaching for. So the messy is necessary and you need something to plug into. So one thing you can do is plug into this, keep coming each month or listen to it. Send other people. If you know other people, send them. You could see we are building the community here. We want to keep this as a free offering for that, for the benefit of the whole. Another thing you can think about doing is we have a 6-month online course, and we have one of you here that's attending that. And you can add on one-to-one coaching if you'd like. Myself or some members of our staff can work on your sideline and just meet once a month with you as you work through the 6 months, which is 6 segments of 30-day instructions, a checklist. Here's what you do this month. Here's another activity. Here's what you read. Here's what you listen to. Because Melissa, I want you to respond to this. It was not just one big move. It was a number of like little dots that you had to put out on the map. And then looking back, you can connect them. Yeah. But going forward, you had to just keep doing little things that we had on your checklist and your assignments. You'd check in with me even when we weren't working and saying, what else can I do? Or what do you think about this? So it gets lonely out there and you need to have something that you can hang on to. So that is another thing that you can do. It's a DIY course. Melissa, do you want to speak to that, connecting the dots, you know, that little do something here and there to keep going?
Sure. I mean, I think you hit on the main point that you're not going to know how they connect until maybe in hindsight sometimes. Because sometimes, yeah, I remember we were kind of at the point where you were encouraging me to design sort of small experiments and see what I learned from them along the way. And sometimes they didn't necessarily at the time even seem that informative, but now looking back, you kind of go, oh yeah, that helped me to this spot I'm at today. So I think that's a helpful thing And even if you make them really small, like a 15-minute investment or a half an hour investment, don't even make yourself do the hard things. If you don't want to have to call a bunch of people, cold call a bunch of people, or do this networking thing, do some of these I just looked up journal articles on my own, and I did learn something from it, even though it felt like I should be doing something more. I mean, I feel very lucky, but I was working at it too. I feel lucky that I landed where I did and that things lined up, that I got a yes, we actually could use your help with this project. I was kind of shocked when that happened. But I think you probably know that it's often who you know, and it's the one-off yes that you get that can lead you to great spots. So you got to keep trying.
Yeah, you got to keep connected to the relationships you have, ask for those relationships to make new introductions, and luck always follows preparation, always follows it. Melissa, did you see anything in the chat that you want to respond to?
I don't think so. I'm glad that people feel like they were learning some helpful things from hearing my story, and that I appreciate that my map was helpful, and I think it will be for you as well. So yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to join, and good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I think we'll open it up for questions here in a second. So if you have a question, get ready to ask that. And then either Melissa or Shannon, can you guys reach in and see if we can play the Sandy the brine shrimp rap that is absolutely not only entertaining, educating, however, it is brilliant. It was brilliant. You get to see Melissa in a new light. We're very, I'm really interested in why she didn't get a spot on You've Got Talent or something after this, but you and Jamie could take it to the road, I would say. Yeah, who can share it?
I can share it. It just might take a second because it's on Instagram, and I hope you can see it. So let me get there first. Tell me if you can see my screen.
Okay, yeah.
Can you see my Instagram screen?
Yeah.
Okay. It's gonna start in the middle of it, so I hate for that to happen. Let me wait. Let me go. Can you do
No, go
something
ahead.
else?
We can watch it. We can watch it halfway. It's all good.
Can you hear it?
No.
Not yet.
And I can try.
Can you hear it at all?
No. Melissa, do you have it on your computer where
I
you can?
do.
Okay.
Do that.
You're getting a preview of what it looks like. I'm not kidding. This was brilliant.
When the Utah legislature's back in session, always gives me indigestion. They talk about saving the lake, but not much happens. It feels kind of fake. Tongues are wagging, bullshit's flying. Meanwhile, another microbialite's dying. Millions of people breathe toxic dust. Rich people get tax cuts. Uptight from the ocean? You're kidding. The ecosystem's clock is ticking. Well, the drought is real, things are dire, climate's changing, forests on fire, but there still is hope. Nature recovers if we can help each other. The brine shrimp are dying, flies ain't flying, gulls are crying, and we are trying to send a message. Will you listen? The Great Salt Lake, our inland sea, so much smaller than it used to be, and it's on its way to empty. Unless we act more rapidly. Well, Great Salt Lake, our inland sea, so much smaller than it used to be, and it's on its way to empty. Unless we act more rapidly.
Made my day. Made my day.
We're missing, there's word captions on the Instagram version, but
yeah, definitely worth going out and following Sandy the brine shrimp. She has her own Instagram page, Jamie and Melissa. Just fantastic creativity there. Okay, let's open it up. Anybody has questions, and then we'll do a wrap today, because this has been really helpful. Thank you, Melissa. Who has a question? Please feel free to come off.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Melissa, how often would you say that you were reaching out to relationships that were close to you? Were you getting like hits to call somebody, or was it just maybe a systematic listing of, I know this person, and just giving yourself time to call them?
It was probably more the second one, of, yeah, just working through some lists of people to reach out to. And, you know, I think one of the things I worked with Lynn was, instead of like saying, hey, do you have any work for me? Kind of like, you know, I'm looking for a new job. I'm interested in shifting back into science. Who should I talk to? So almost like that secondary, it's a little bit less of a ask of people, rather than feeling like they need to be obligated to offer you something. Just saying, is there anybody else you could suggest I talk to? So I was kind of working through that process. And then, yeah, I mean, the way I ended up with this job, though, was more looking for the work that was interesting, and then dialing that back to who was doing it. And that actually happened to be somebody I had recently reconnected with in that case. So I think those two things go together well, because, and every field is different. And one of the things about my experience is I didn't totally shift careers. I'm doing very adjacent work, but I'm doing a different job within that sort of realm of work that is better suited to my personality and needs and strengths. So I think if that wasn't the case, if I was totally jumping to teaching or a different field entirely, I think the strategy has to be a little bit different. But for me, being able to, again, note the peripheral work items, or, you know, maybe I could go to this meeting, or maybe I can look at this online recording of a meeting, or read these documents, and then be like, oh, it's this consulting firm, and I happen to know someone, or I know someone who knows someone. Kind of working at it from both directions, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that question, Asia. Thanks, Melissa. Anyone else? Here's your chance to get the brains and experience from Melissa. All right, Melissa, you may have just shared everything we needed to hear today. It's a lot to absorb, and it's also very rich with honesty and those micro chunks of strategy that we share at Soul Salt that work time and time again. You just have to apply them in your own life. Stay steady, keep your mind in the game, not give up. There were days I'm sure you felt like giving up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Many.
And you didn't. Yeah, you didn't. You got through the messy. So let it get messy, guys. All right. If you have questions you want to field to Melissa, feel free to send them to us. We'll get them over to Melissa. Melissa, would you even respond if we have a question for Sandy the brine shrimp?
Oh, maybe. I can try.
Yeah, see if you can interpret what she might tell you. It sounds like you and Jamie have her ear. So Thanks again for being here. Always great to see your faces. Hi, Alicia. It's good to have you with us. Please feel free to share with your friends that we do this every month. Next month, I will be sharing. And so I think that's right, Shannon. Is that what we have on the schedule? Yes. So if you have questions you want to send ahead of time, let me know. And in the meantime, again, Melissa, thank you. Please take care, everybody. Do not give up.
Yeah.
See you later.